Alright, this is the introduction video for a new YouTube channel. It's going to be specifically devoted to organizing people around the concept of education reform, and a pretty specific proposal, which would be to create more, to create free education basically, and ultimately to prove, to test and prove that it would be better for us to spend our education dollar on paying students rather than paying archaic and redundant teachers. Kind of a bold statement to make, considering the education industrial complex. So that's really something. The first thing you really should understand is this: it's a huge amount of money that we spend on education. We don't finance it through the federal government, so people don't really realize it, but it's more than the military budget, more than healthcare, well, tied with healthcare maybe. But you could take most of the social programs without healthcare and the military budget, and that's what we're spending on education. It's a huge amount of money. And we do it in this terribly inefficient way where we pay a lot of people to redundantly do exactly the same thing in thousands of institutions across the country at the same time, year after year after year, redundantly, over and over and over again. We have all this technology. It's kind of like having a law that says you can't make a movie. That's sort of what we've done. Where we've said every performance has to be a play. Every performance has to be live. Performance artists. The impracticality of that, the expense of that. When you think of what it costs to make a movie, and the movie lasts, they will last 100 years if we don't blow ourselves up or something before then. But I mean, some of it's eternal. It's the product can last a long time at any rate. All right. So anyway, the first stage in the proposal is to to take 1/1000th or 100,000th of the amount of money that's spent on education now, and create a national high school and college, and to put the best people, pay them the highest salaries, get the best people possible to teach on the specific subjects. The general knowledge high school curriculum, all the subjects, and then college include a law school and a doctorates, medical, the whole deal. And then to videotape all of the instruction that takes place, every bit of it, and put it on the internet and on cable television where possible. Definitely the internet, and hopefully also put it on cable television. So it wouldn't cost much at all. As a percentage of the current budget on education, it'd be just a minute expenditure. Even with the broadband cost on the internet, it still would be, just a very fraction of what we're spending. The first immediate benefit would be is that you'd have this free education, this free information. So if somebody who wasn't even in school, after school age, wanted to learn up on some subjects, they could do so in a very formal, reasonable, specific way, a logical way to acquire the information. Secondly, any parents who are homeschooling their kids would have this resource, already pre-built, the best in the country school they could essentially send their kid to for a few hours a day if they chose. So huge benefit right there. And then ultimately what I would like to be done with this is to start, take a test sample of maybe 1,000 kids, and instead of take the same amount of money we now spend on high school per student, which is over $100,000 per high school graduate, and take some percentage of that money, 50,000 maybe, as a incentive for kids to pass a GED, a high school equivalency exam, which is a really demanding test when you really think about it, because you really have to know the subjects. You can't just sneak by smiling at the teacher and playing little personality games. You really have to know the content to pass a standardized test. And so it would just, I think the end result of such a test would be that it works. Okay, you can encourage kids because you can make it worth their while. Kids don't have the psychology necessary to invest their life in some kind of future promise of value. They're living in the moment most of the time, and you've got to take advantage of that. And I think, like I said, I'm not going to argue the point in this video. I might argue it in other videos, but I think there's just I have no doubt that the performance of these individuals being paid will be so much better than the average school student, especially when it comes to the worst cases, the horrible dropout rates like in the inner cities, where you have 80% dropout rates. Those kids, I think the change would be so radical, because they would see real purpose in putting down the spray paint and the basketball and the other nonsense they get caught up with, and see real purpose in learning, because it's a real practical way to help, if they were decent humans, to help their family get the hell out of the shithole they're in, and just to see a way of building a life for themselves, because they would have that opportunity to grab a piece of this Head Start pie and get themselves into a better world and into a better life. So I think it would just be a huge win for the society. We'd end up with smarter kids. We'd increase the national IQ. We'd create better engineers, better scientists, better everything, more competent human beings. I think people would learn to have a passion for learning. That's really important. It really is about motivation. And if you can pay a kid to get a little bit addicted to knowledge, a little, all you need is that introduction sometimes. All I need was the introduction. When I had the right introduction to the right information, I didn't need a teacher anymore. My own passion to learn was enough. And I think that psychology is a generic human psychology. I think learning can be really addictive. It doesn't have to be it isn't something for only the brainiacs and this and that and the nerd or some other person. No, it's everybody can have that addiction. And there's nothing wrong with bribing them to fall into the trap of wanting to learn more. So anyway, that's the end, is to get to that point. The first step is, like I said, just a simple one. No harm, no foul. A small amount of money to essentially socialize a piece of education, put it online, and the only objection is going to be from the teachers union. It's a very powerful union, but they're the only people going to be objecting. They'll make a lot of noise because they want to protect their intellectual property, their value. They want to protect the value of the archaic performance artists. Technology is a good thing. You can't keep pushing it off and saying no, we won't progress, because we have to preserve some traditional nonsense, especially when that nonsense is hugely expensive. It's a huge cost to our society. Gigantic, monstrous, preposterously gigantic magnitude of expense. And we just can't afford that, that obedience to some traditional notion of this is how it's done. Because if we were going to remake the education system today, there's no way we wouldn't be taking advantage of technology. We would be pumping the information into every house, and we wouldn't be building huge giant institutions, prisons of learning. We would figure out, frankly, that the better end of the horse to feed is the learner, the person who's going to make them hungry. You want to get the horse to eat, make the horse hungry, and that's the way to do it, instead of having people forcing in a very unpleasant environment, an environment very unconducive to the frame of mind you want, learner. Well, anyway, so enough said. We just don't need to be doing it the archaic way. We can be progressive and do it the efficient way, and there'll be nothing but gain here. Nothing but an improvement in our society, in our culture, in our industry, in everything. So that's the essence of the proposal, and the substance of the purpose of this channel is to get people motivated behind something like this, and to try to get it pushed through the political system. And so that's the objective. So there'll be other videos hopefully, and some other people contributing hopefully, and we'll try to make a persuasive argument for necessary and rational change.